So this story starts off like any other Friday night. Larry, Zeke and I are all down at the golf course with a few beers. It's about like an hour in and Zeke turns to me and he says, "Boys, guess what I got?" Now, you see, Zeke was the type of guy to just have everything, anything. It doesn't matter what it is. It would be something cool. But this time, he pulls out a bag of that good old horse tranquilizer. Now, I'd never done Ket, but a few drinks in, I said, why the fuck not? So we're all just sat around this phone. Now, Zeke starts chopping up these massive slug lines of this ketamine. Now, the thing is with Ket, you're not meant to do lines of it, unlike Coke. You're meant to have bumps off a key. So, when I tell you, after we did this, we were fucked, I mean we were fucked. So, what a perfect time would it be for Zeke to turn around yet again and say, "Boys, guess what I got?" He turns to Larry and I and says, "I got these tabs off the dark web. They're apparently the strongest you can get." Now, anyone in their sober mind would be like, what the fuck? No. Now, mind you, it was like 9 PM at night, it was dark, we were out in public. This was not the ideal setting to do my first ever acid trip, especially after a fat line of ketamine. But, just like earlier, I said why the fuck not. So we pack up and we start to get ready to head to Zeke's house. But right as we start this journey, Zeke stops and tells us that he's dropped the bag of Ket. And instead of doing what any sober person would do and retrace our steps, we K'd out of our mind, walking around in circles on a golf course, looking for this bag like a bunch of headless chooks. We eventually give up and we start heading to Zeke's. So Larry and I are standing out front just waiting for Zeke to sneak in past his parents and grab these tabs of acid. Now, I don't know how he's done this while like half paralyzed, but he eventually makes it back outside. Behind Zeke's place is a bunch of bike tracks. They all like intertwine in the suburb that we live in, and each one of them leads to a park of some sort. So we each took our tab and we started our mission to the park. We make it to this park, and it's the kind of park where there's a playground, a sheltered area with some barbecues, and an oval. The three of us were sitting around the barbecues, and this is when things started to kick in. This was my first acid trip and my first time on ketamine. So you can imagine, I'm sitting there watching the walls melt, and the last thing that you would need in that situation is a bunch of random people to come over. And that's exactly what happened. Almost out of nowhere, this group of people emerged from the bush, and it was dark, bro, so that shit spooked me. All of a sudden, Zeke gets super excited, and he's like, "No way!" Turns out that one of the guys coming over happened to be the person that sold him the bag of ketamine. You know, the one that we lost on the golf course? So they all come over and they kind of sit with us. One of them's got a bong, bit of weed, and this other dude's like, "Hey, I got nangs." Now, if you guys don't know what nangs are, in Australia, it's like the slang term for those little nitrous canisters that you put in a balloon. Around this time, I was smoking a lot of weed. So when someone says, "Hey, do you want a cone?" Why the fuck not? Now, this might have been the biggest mistake I made of the whole night, because that shit rocket propelled me to a place that you cannot even comprehend. I'm sitting there ketted out of my mind, starting to come up on my first ever acid trip, and I had just had a cone. So when that dude turns around and says, "Hey, do you want a nang as well?" I said, why the fuck not? I'm sat up on the barbecue, balloon in hand, and I'm breathing that shit in and out. I look up to see everyone kind of sitting around me, kind of smiling, and this is when I kind of felt something off. On my life, I have heard the sound of glass shattering, and what I saw was my reality, right? Imagine you're looking through glasses, yeah, your vision. Imagine that just shattering into little bits, and it all crumbles down into nothing but blackness. At this point, I kind of forgot who I was. I forgot I was a human. I was just kind of in this other place. And I don't know, something about it I just found hilarious. So I started to giggle, and when I started giggling, I heard other people giggling, and the more that I giggled, the more that they giggled, and the more that that happened, the more I could start to see again. My vision fully returns, I'm back where I am, and let me tell you, that was the craziest thing to ever happen in my life. At this point, we kind of made our way to the swings of the playground, and we're just swinging back and forth. This is when I hear the familiar sound of a motorbike. Fucking meow! Almost out of nowhere, my other good mate, Bob, just turns up on his motorbike, popping wheelies left, right, center. And I'm hella excited because everyone loves Bob. So it's me, Larry, Zeke, and Bob sitting around this other group of people in this playground. Zeke turns and talks to the guy that gave him the bag of Ket and basically just said, "Hey, look bro, I lost that bag. Am I able to get another one?" The dude says, "No worries bro, I got you." A few minutes goes by and Zeke happens to drop his wallet. All the contents of this wallet spill all over the floor. And this is when I see the dude, pick up the bag of Ket that Zeke had just bought and put it straight into his pocket. Zeke's looking around, he's like, "Fuck man, I've lost another one." And he was so upset. I'm sitting on this swing in this moral dilemma, absolutely ketted out of my mind, peaking on my first ever acid trip, thinking to myself, do I A, confront this big, scary drug dealer dude who I barely know, or just let it happen and Zeke's going to be upset for the rest of the night. In my next level state, I managed to muster up the courage to go and confront this dude. Hey bro, I totally saw you pick up his bag of ket. Can you get that back by any chance? In that moment, I thought I was about to get schwacked, but instead, this bag of ket just slowly falls from the sky like a feather, landing on the ground right in front of Zeke. Let me tell you, I've never seen that man so happy. He was like, oh my god bro, it's raining ket, no way! These other dudes eventually leave, and it's just me, Zeke, Larry, and Bob just sitting in the park. Larry turns and goes, yo, we should go back to the golf course and just lay there and look at the stars. We all think that's an amazing idea, but the problem is Bob with his motorbike. He can't exactly walk with us on a motorbike. He could either leave his bike there or meet us there. We all decide that he should probably just meet us there. He hops on his bike and wheelies off into the night sky. Little did we know, this would be the last time we saw Bob. Because as we're walking through the bike tracks to get to the golf course, this is when things really started to kick in. It was pitch black and these bike tracks were through the middle of the bush, and the trees, bro, they just no. We all had to pee at some point, and we each stood on our own off to the side in the bush, and I think we all just kind of forgot who we were with, where we were, and what we were doing. It was pitch black, and I remember Larry just goes, Marco, followed with a few seconds of silence until Zeke goes, Polo. And this shit went on back and forth for a few minutes, and it was the funniest fucking thing ever. We all meet back up on the track and we continue to walk. We eventually emerge onto the road next to a pub, and there was this guy just kind of standing ominously off to the side of the pub in the bush, on his phone, smoking. I don't know what he was doing. I wanted to just keep walking because I was on a mission. I was getting to that golf course no matter what. That wasn't until Zeke decides to walk up to the guy and strike a conversation. This is when shit got pretty weird. I started to think negatively, and when I started doing this, I could have sworn I heard Zeke scream, run, and I turn around to see him running towards me. But that's when I think, hang on. Wait a second. I turn back to look at him, and that's when I see them just standing there laughing. This made no sense to me. It was as if whatever I thought, I could ultimately see both outcomes based on whatever I was thinking or feeling at the time. It's kind of like that episode of Rick and Morty where Morty's got that crystal ball and he can see both pathways based on each choice he makes. And this shit kept happening throughout the night. For example, on our walk to this golf course, I remember walking through bush, and it was kind of on the bend of a road. And I was like, fuck this, I don't want to walk through the bush. I'm gonna step onto the road. And I shit you not, as I step onto the road, a car comes around the corner and it fucking hits me, bro. Right as it did, it was as if I just opened my eyes and I'm back where I was, where I made the choice to step onto the road. Let me tell you, I was not stepping on the road after that. Not to mention, I could have sworn Zeke and I had telepathic thoughts. Like, my thoughts were his thoughts and I could hear his thoughts, and it was fucking weird, bro. Anyway, we eventually make it to the golf course. It was at this point where we remembered Bob was meant to be there, but Bob was gone, bro. That motherfucker was already in bed like 3 hours into his sleep. Yeah, a 20-minute walk took us about 3 hours. It was at this point where all three of us were just really wigging out. Like, we were really feeling the effects of this acid, and I think Larry actually decided to just go home. So it was just Zeke and I'm in another realm at this point. For whatever reason, Zeke was just screaming gibberish, just random shit, like the trifecta of the circle, the purple fucking caterpillar did a backflip, and it was wigging me out. I'll be honest, I was spooked. So I decided to get on my phone and go to call a mate to pick me up. In doing this, I remember walking through the bush in a circle, hallucinating, or what I thought was hallucinating the phone call, but in reality, I was just on loop, calling my friend over and over. They'd pick up, I'd be like, hey, I'm here, I need help, please get me. I'd hang up, then forget I did it, and then do that again and again and again. I was freaking the fuck out. I had spiders in my hair because, you know, Australia, bush, nighttime, yeah, it was not fucking fun. Eventually my mate figures out where I am and he starts heading over. I'm there freaking out, stuck in time, and that's when I hear the beautiful sound of my friend's Toyota Hilux. He pulls into the car park of the golf course, and let me tell you, that was the best feeling ever. I'm pretty sure Zeke said he could walk home, given that he was only 20 minutes away. So I hop into the Hilux, and this is when things got a little bit scary, because at this point I thought I was in a dream, like nothing felt real. This is where my memory is really fragmented. What I do remember though is driving really, really fast, red and blue, flashing lights, being asked what my name was constantly, and the last thing I remember of the night was my friend saying, my mate's dying, I need to get him to a hospital. And then boom, I woke up. in the spare bedroom of my mate's place. I still don't know what the fuck happened. I don't know if I died, if I went to hospital. I have no idea. It kind of spooks me from time to time if I think about it too much, but I don't know. It is what it is. Long story short, that's why you should never do ket and acid for the first time, along with nitrous and weed at night time, and then proceed to walk through the Australian bush. Take care, and I'll see you guys next time.